And good morning. It is Thursday. That means it's time for the first of our 2025 season of Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. These are fugitives who are on our street right now, and they need to be in front of a judge in a courtroom facing extremely serious charges. We've seen the entire gamut here on Cuyahoga's Most Wanted, and every week we work with Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County and the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Detective Red Dyer joining us again. Detective, happy 2025. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Well, the one thing we know in the new year is that there's always going to be crime. Unfortunately, there's always going to be criminals who are on our street when they should be in a jail cell awaiting a court date. Let's talk about this partnership. It's been running for 3, 4, 5 years now that we've been working on Crime Stoppers. Why does Channel 19 pair up with Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department?
Well, Dan, as we discussed very often, we recognize the eyes and ears and the value that that provides to us from our community. It also opens up a community engagement with us, helps build public trust, gives people the opportunity to clean up their neighborhoods, get justice for these victims, as well as earn a potential reward, all while remaining completely anonymous.
You know, I love you bring up this idea of the victim. In each of these cases, and we feature 3 every week, there are victims, plural. In one case that we have today, we've got children who are involved, and they deserve to see this person not on the street, but in a courtroom. And if found guilty, they deserve to be put in jail or in prison. And those victims deserve that justice. So let's get to our first case. Red, we talk about this quite a bit. We've seen any number of type of weapons used. We can go through the knives and the guns and everything, but we've seen frying pans, baseball bats, chairs. We've seen a lamp used as a weapon. Today we have another first on Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. A blowtorch involved in one of our attacks. So let's get to the case of George Abate. What do we know?
Well, Dan, what we know is that in February of 2024, Mr. Abate pled guilty to attempted domestic violence, where indictments state that he strangled the victims. We're talking something very serious. He actually has a history of violence with the Sheriff's Department. In June of 2018, he pled guilty to domestic violence, and reports in that case state that in March, he used a blowtorch lighter to threaten the victim. According to reports, he also prevented the victim from fleeing, and when police arrived and were knocking on the door, he held the victim down, threatened to kill them, as well as burn down the house. He failed to appear for a probation violation hearing, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. He's approximately 6 foot and 220 pounds, and was last known to be staying in the 6800 block of Day Drive in the city of Parma.
We can see why that individual needs to be off our street. Anytime you're using dangerous weapons to make threats, to burn down homes, to kill people, why should that person be out on our street when he's already been found guilty of those charges and now faces even more? Let's get to our second case of the day. And we get, unfortunately, a lot of these. And when someone is facing 8 counts of child endangering, and we know, Red, you talk about it quite often, how passionate the public is about crimes against children. When somebody is facing 8 counts of child endangering, let's get them into a courtroom. Tell us about Kai Vaughn Berry. What do we know?
Well, Dan, Mr. Berry has a few warrants with the Sheriff's Department, 3 actually. In 2022, he pled guilty to domestic violence and endangering children, where reports state that he strangled the victim into unconsciousness. In another case, he pled guilty to burglary and assault. Reports in that case state that he entered the victim's home without their permission and pushed them to the floor. He quickly exited the residence, and the victim locked the door. In response, Mr. Berry shattered the glass to the door, unlocked it, and re-entered the residence. Very scary situation, Dan. He failed to appear for court in these cases, and a warrant has been put out for his arrest. He's approximately 5'11" and 245 pounds, and was last known to be staying in the 3800 block of Warrensville Center Road in the city of Warrensville Heights. However, he also may be wanted by the Warrensville Police Department for burglary, and Berea as well for driving under suspension. So we're not the only ones who want to have a word with him.
And that's what's great about the system that's connected. When someone gets picked up and they've got multiple warrants, once they're in the system, they just get passed down the line so they can answer to charges in other communities. Let's get to our third and final case. Red, we see this a lot. When people decide to get face tattoos, makes them pretty easy to be identified. And that is the case with our next fugitive, Francisco Cruz. What do we know?
Well, Dan, Mr. Cruz may be wanted or may be known on the streets as Frankie Cruz or Jose Cruz. He's wanted for the rape of a juvenile that's less than 13 years of age, Dan. And as we talked earlier, our community is very passionate about protecting our children. He failed to appear for court and a warrant was issued for his arrest. He has an extensive criminal history with the Sheriff's Department dating back to 2008. In fact, in 2017, he pled guilty to domestic violence, Dan, and in reports, reports in that case state that he punched the victim in the face repeatedly and threatened to kill the victim and the victim's child. He also has warrants with Parma Heights for menacing and telecommunications harassment. As you said, he can be identified by his multiple tattoos, including ones on his neck and next to his right eye. He's approximately 6'1" and 187 pounds and was last known to be staying in the 3400 block of West 62nd Street in the city of Cleveland.
Those tattoos may have been a good idea at the time, depending on who you are, but now they're going to make you easily identifiable. Red, people get nervous when we start talking about turning in fugitives. They think that their name is going to get written down. It's going to end up in a court document. The judge is going to read it, and that possible felon is going to know exactly who they are. That's why Crime Stoppers works, because none of that happens here. Walk people through the process of what happens when they call Crime Stoppers.
Well, Dan, when you call Crime Stoppers, we don't take down your name, your phone number, or any personal identifying information. We don't record phone calls, and we don't have caller ID. Everything that you do through us is referenced through an anonymous tip number that's provided to you. Think of it like like the tracking number you get with a package. Completely anonymous. You won't know. We won't have your information, and we won't store that information.
And it's a simple phone call, 216-252-7463. You get that reference number, and then 45 days down the road, you call back in. Maybe it was your tip that led to an arrest, and you give them that reference number and find out if you're eligible for that reward money. Red, reward money is a big motivator. What do you like people to know when we start talking of up to a $5,000 reward?
We like them to know that crime doesn't pay, but Crime Stoppers does.
It does. Crime Stoppers does pay. And it's not just Cuyahoga County. Let's talk about all the other agencies. This individual or these individuals may be in Lorain. They may be in Menor. They may be in Ashtabula. They may be in Akron or Canton. This information is shared with all the agencies of Northeast Ohio so that this work can get done. Some incredible work by our detectives, our warrant units all throughout the area. So incredible work. Detective, first one in the books for 2025. Unfortunately, I know there's going to be more. We appreciate you joining us. Have a good New Year.
It's been a pleasure. You too.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap it up for Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, look for our 11 o'clock news coming up on CW43, then our noon news on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Hope you have a great day. Stay warm out there.
19 News is everywhere.